Wyoming Territory, September 1887. Just before the first snow, lightning cracked the sky above the Wind River Range, thunder rolling through the earth like it was shaking loose old ghosts. Zane Northwood tugged his duster close, rain lashing his shoulders as he nudged his gelding forward. He should have stayed in the cabin when the storm loomed over the peaks at dawn, but the cattle had scattered in the night, and he couldn't bear the thought of predators claiming them. Near the edge of a draw, a sound cut through the wind and water, soft, human, a cry. Zane reined in hard, the gelding snorting, hooves slipping in the mud. He scanned the dark, rain biting his face. The cry came again, closer, raw. "Who's there?" he called. Lightning flashed, revealing a figure slumped by a fallen pine, bonnet plastered to tangled hair. Zane dismounted, boots sinking as he knelt beside her, her eyes wide with fear, and something heavier met his. "Don't touch me," she said, voice sharp but trembling, her body shaking from cold. "I won't hurt you," Zane said, low and steady, "but you'll freeze out here." She didn't move. He slipped off his duster, draping it over her, then lifted her into his arms. She was too light, fragile beneath the soaked clothes. The gelding shied as he settled her in the saddle and climbed up behind. The mile to his cabin dragged through the storm's howl, her form silent, pressed against him like she wanted to vanish. Inside, Zane set her on the cot by the hearth, lit the lantern, and knelt to spark a fire. "Fire first," he muttered. She spoke, voice faint. "I didn't know where else to go." He glanced back. Her lips were blue, face pale. "No need to explain. Let's get you warm." The fire caught, crackling. He handed her a wool blanket and a tin cup of warm water, stripping off his own wet shirt. "I'm Zane Northwood. You got a name?" She stared into the flames, then nodded. "Delia Monroe." "Where were you headed, Delia?" She looked into the cup. "Nowhere. I was running." Zane sat across from her, giving her space. "From what?" Her fingers tightened on the cup. "My husband died last winter. Ranch hands left. Bank took the land, said it wasn't mine. The storm caught me on the ridge." Her face held high cheekbones, dirt smudged but delicate with lines of grief too deep for her youth. "You said was," Zane noted. "Means you're alone now?" She nodded. "No one." He leaned back, a tug in his chest he hadn't felt in years. "You do now." Her eyes flicked up. "Why say that?" "Because I don't leave folks crying in the mud." Her lip quivered. "I wasn't crying for help, just crying." He didn't reply, just heated a skillet and cooked beans and cornbread. They ate in silence, the storm raging outside. Delia curled by the fire in his duster, staring into the flames. Zane made a pallet across the small cabin, giving her space. As he banked the fire, she spoke. "Why are you up here alone?" He lay back, arms behind his head. "Was a foreman near Laramie. Lost my wife in childbirth 3 winters ago. Couldn't face town after. Came here." The wind screamed, but the cabin held warm. Delia's voice softened. "I'm sorry," he nodded. "Me too." Quiet stretched. Then, barely audible, she whispered, "Thank you for stopping." Zane stared at the ceiling's shadows. "I heard you cry. That's all." But it was more. He hadn't felt this stir in years. She hadn't trusted anyone in longer. The storm faded, thunder softening to distant grumbles. Inside, a quiet trust began to settle, warm and unspoken. By morning the storm had drained, leaving mist and brittle silence over the ridge. Zane stepped outside, stacking wood. Inside, Delia stood barefoot by the stove, hair loose, stirring embers and heating bacon. He set the logs down. Didn't have to do that. She shrugged. Used your blanket. Seemed fair. He washed his hands. You settle debts that fast? I try, she said, flipping bacon. But I owe more than I can pay. Zane leaned against the wall. Keep running. She plated the bacon. Nowhere left to run. He sat by the window. That's not the same as staying. She stared into the fog. Don't know what I want, just what I don't. He nodded. That's a start. Her eyes fell to her sagging saddlebag. What's in it? He asked. Ledger books, she said. My husband's? He believed in order, thought it'd save us. Did it? No. Zane sipped coffee. You keep them to remember, or because you don't know what else to do? Her fork stilled. Someone should remember he tried. They stepped onto the porch, mist lifting over grasslands. Zane pulled on a dry shirt. Fences down, cattle scattered, could use help. Delia met his gaze. I know how, rode our land alone after the hands left. They saddled his gelding and a roan, riding to the creek bed. She worked steady, lifting rails, coaxing calves, her hands sure despite worn boots and a hitched skirt. By afternoon, 3 rails were mended, 3 calves gaited. Zane watched her wipe sweat and dirt from her face. You're not afraid of work? Born to it, she said. Women manage land all the time, just not loud enough to be noticed. He chuckled. You're noticed now. A faint warmth crossed her face. You don't ask like other men. Maybe I'm not like them. Back at the cabin, she unsaddled her horse, hung the bridle, and combed out her hair by the window. Zane set the kettle on. Sleeping inside again? She turned, eyes steady. Unless you'd rather I didn't. I'd rather you did. She nodded. Then I will. The wind rose, softer now, like a lullaby. The silence between them shifted. No longer cautious, but trusting. Frost laced the windows by dawn. Zane hauled oats to the lean-to, returning to find Delia at the table, sketching on paper. Couldn't sleep, she said. Your floor creaks like it's hiding secrets. He glanced at her drawing. What's that? Our old pasture, she said, tapping the pencil. Walked every fence with my husband before frost. Thought drawing it might hold it longer. Zane set the kettle on, planning to climb new land. Don't know what I'd do with it, she said, but I hate forgetting how it felt to belong. He sat across. There's land past the second ridge, unclaimed, hard but good. You'd fight rock and cold for it. Fought worse, she said. He nodded. Take a look with me when the sun's up. She tucked the paper away. I like that. They climbed the ridge after breakfast, frost melting underfoot. Zane pointed out elk signs and snowmelt paths. At the top, a hollow opened below, pine-rimmed, gold-lit, a creek threading through. Delia's breath caught. Didn't expect it so open. Most skip it, Zane said. Too much work. She crouched, touching wild rye. Good earth. Settles different when it's left alone. He watched her press the soil. Land remembers who's kind. She glanced up. You sound like you've talked to it. I've listened. They walked the clearing, marking snowdrifts and rock. She asked about windbreaks, water rights. He answered plainly. Years of tending unclaimed land in his words. They sat on a log, sharing venison. Delia watched a hawk circle. It's good earth, she said. Could belong to someone who stays. Zane chewed slow. Could. The silence stretched. Not heavy, but alive, like the land beneath them. A quiet understanding. My mother passed when I was 16, Lila said, her voice soft but steady. We laid her to rest under the cottonwoods by the barn. After that, I didn't have much to say. My husband didn't mind. He preferred the quiet. Zane listened, still as stone, his eyes fixed on her. I don't miss him the way people think I should, she continued. But I miss the rhythm of it, knowing someone else would wake with me, rest when I did. Zane shifted, elbows on his knees. That rhythm's worth more than folks realize, he said. Lila met his gaze. I've known men who talk of promises and men who keep them. You seem the keeping kind. Zane's voice was low. I don't make many, but the ones I do, I hold. She nodded, and they sat in silence, the sun warming their necks, the creek humming below. As the sky turned pink, they returned to the cabin. Lila gathered pine kindling while Zane tended the horses. Inside, she stirred flour in a bowl, sleeves pushed up, hair tied back with a scrap of cloth. Zane leaned against the doorframe. You sure you want to cook again? He asked. I don't sit still well, she replied, and my biscuits beat my small talk. He gave a small smile. We'll see about that. After supper, with the fire down to embers, Lila wrapped her shawl tight and sat by the hearth, legs folded beneath her. Zane mended a tear in his saddlebag across from her. She broke the quiet. Do you think we're meant to stay alone after losing someone? He threaded the needle through leather, hands steady. Some find their way back, he said, if they let the pain guide them. Her eyes stayed on the fire. And if they don't? They wander longer, he said, but not forever. Lila looked at him. You still believe in tomorrow? He set the needle down. I believe in today. Tomorrow grows from it. Her gaze dropped, then lifted. Would it bother you if I stayed longer? Not a bit, he said, voice sure. Her shoulders softened, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she settled, as if trusting the ground to hold. By the time the last snow melted from the north slope, the creek surged with meltwater, rushing over stones below the ridge. The air carried the scent of thawed pine and waking earth. Lila stood at the clearing's edge, sleeves rolled, skirt hitched at the knees, marking rows with a stick she'd whittled herself. Zane watched from the cabin steps, a sack of seed corn at his side. Your lines are true, he said. She brushed hair from her face. Used to use string and stakes, but I trust my eyes now. He crouched beside her. Mind if I walk it with you? She handed him the stick. Let's see if your hands match your words. They worked together, her marking, him pressing the earth with his boot. The sun rose high, their shadows stretching across the furrows. Lila spoke. That hollow you showed me stays dry in spring? Zane dusted his hands. Holds a bit of water near the creek, but it drains fast. She nodded, eyes distant. If I built a lean-to there, I'd need to cut pine. Those trunks by the east fence would do. Zane paused. That a plan or a thought? I don't plan without thinking, she said. He stood, brushing dirt from his knees. Then we'll make it happen. I've got tools, and the saw's sharp. Lila looked at him, then at the furrows. You'd help me build? He nodded. If you're staying, it's not just yours to do. She stepped back, taking in the field, the ridge, the cabin. I want something that lasts through the seasons. Zane handed her the sack. Then we planned. They sowed seed by hand, one every few inches, as his father had shown him. By mid-afternoon the rows were done, Leela leaned on the hoe, sweat on her brow. You move like this land's always been yours. Zane said. I don't belong to much, she replied, but I know how to listen. At the creek they washed up, kneeling on flat stones, the water cold and swift. Leela cupped her hands, letting it flow through. Zane watched her capable fingers, strong, not hesitant. Never asked what you'd have done if I hadn't been here, he said. She let the water slip away. I'd have walked till my feet gave out, maybe slept under a tree. You don't seem the type to quit, he said. I'm not, she answered. But I was close. The willows rustled in the wind. Zane picked a pebble from the stream, rolling it between his fingers. The wind, once a howl, now whispered through the Wyoming cottonwoods. Zane watched Delia from the cabin's porch, her skirt dusted with earth as she raked a patch of cleared ground. You found something steadier than what you had? He asked, leaning against the weathered post. She turned, her eyes catching the fading sun. I think I found someone who hears quiet things. Her words landed soft but heavy, sinking into him. He shifted, boots scuffing the dirt. Never aimed to be that. Her smile was small, true. It's still what you are. They walked back together, their steps leaving faint prints in the soft earth, the sun casting gold across the trees. Inside, the cabin smelled of ash and fresh bread. Delia set a loaf on the table, broke it, and handed him half. You ever think about what's next? She asked, eyes on the bread, not him. I think about what holds, Zane said. What doesn't wash away in a storm? She nodded, tearing off a piece. If it holds, you keep it. I do. She sat across from him, their gazes meeting. Then maybe I'll build that lean-to. Maybe I won't leave it come winter. Zane held her eyes. I'd like that. For the first time since the storm, she didn't seem like someone passing through. She seemed like someone staying, rooted to something hers. A warmth that wouldn't fade when the wind rose, built by hands and time. Days stretched longer, the wind softer now, no longer sharp with ice. Delia worked barefoot near the cabin, raking loose soil, her hands marked by labor, her face calm, not joyful, but steady, like the world after a storm. Zane approached from the pines, fence wire slung over his shoulder. West gate's holding, he said. Walked it to the gulch. She adjusted the rake. Boiled some willow bark this morning. Your shoulder's been tight since we hauled that timber. He set the wire by the barn, dusting his hands. You watching me that close? I watch what matters. Zane stepped closer, the sky streaked with orange behind him. You always speak so plain. Delia brushed her brow with her wrist. I've lived enough silence to know when truth's better. He looked at her, his stance easing. That land above the creek, it's yours if you want it. She tilted her head, uncertain. What would you keep? He glanced at the cabin, then back. The rest. And maybe a place beside you, if you've got use for it. The wind lifted her hair. She let it fall. You're not offering charity. I'm offering a life. Her voice was low. I didn't come looking for one. I know, but you found something, didn't you? I did. She stepped closer, slow, until no space remained. Her fingers found his rough palm, and he didn't pull away. I won't run again, she said. You don't have to. They stood under the wide Wyoming sky, the last light draping their shoulders. No promises spoken, But something stronger took root. Earned, lived, quiet. That night, by the hearth's low glow, her chair close to his, Dilea mended a curtain with careful stitches while Zane smoothed a new handle onto a draw knife. The air smelled of pine pitch and morning bread. "Gonna raise chickens again," she said, eyes on her needle. "Not for profit, for the steadiness." Zane set the tool down. "I'll build you a coop, and maybe a small fence for a garden. I've got seeds saved. I'll dig the trench." She smiled, just enough to crease her cheek. "You always answer like that? No hesitation?" "And know what I want." She turned to him, needle still. "Then say it." He took her hand, calluses meeting calluses. "I want this, you and me. A life that doesn't ask for more than we can give. Shared work, quiet nights, a roof we both belong to." She looked at him, something softening in her eyes. "Then it's yours. I'm yours." No more needed saying. 2 weeks later, they married beneath the cottonwood by the creek, its roots firm, the water steady. Zayn carved rings from shed antler, polished smooth. She wore hers on a leather cord against her skin. He wore his on his smallest finger, never removed. That summer, the garden grew in neat rows behind the cabin, the coop filled with hens that clucked like they'd always been there. They built the lean-to together, not for storage but for shade, a place to sit against the logs and talk about what needed tending. By fall, the corn stood tall, the harvest full. Dilea canned peaches and beans. Zane stacked wood high along the north wall. They moved through their days with ease, not needing to fill the silence, not needing to explain why their hands found each other at dusk. When winter came, it was gentle, not for lack of snow, but because the warmth inside never faltered. They sat close on long nights, her head against his shoulder, his thumb tracing her wrist. They never spoke the word love, as if it needed naming. They lived it. In shared coffee, quiet glances across furrowed fields, nights chosen side by side. Their pasts lingered, softened by time and new days. They built a home that held through every season, a bond that asked only what was freely given. The wind, once howling, now whispered. Zane and Dilea lived their days in peace, side by side, never once alone again. In that quiet corner of Wyoming they made it so, with hands worn by work, hearts softened by trust, and a steadiness that held long after the creek froze and thawed, long after the last seed was sown.